We have our Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, Leonard Towns, and First Deputy Commissioner John Beefus is here. We're going to have the director of the program here, George Asante, for the Office of Housing Counsel. We have Emily Saltzman definitely in the room here, our Deputy Director of Operations, the Deputy County Executive, Richard Wishney's here. We have Diane Atkins, who does everything with us here regarding housing and people working in social services. We also have with us all of our friends that have been putting this together, and we're going to ask everybody, so everyone's going to get a chance to say something. We have the county attorney here, John Nona. We have other folks that are coming through the door. But the reality is that this has been a program that's a long time coming. And when we have everyone working together, it has made a difference. And here in Westchester County, having this Office for Housing Counsel is the latest example of Westchester County taking a leadership role, working with innovative programs to stabilize communities and address housing insecurity. When the Board of Legislators and the administration acted to create the Office of Housing Counsel, it was a promise made to address housing insecurity head on, and today it's a promise being kept by this administration. The heart of the Housing Counsel law is the assurance that all financially eligible tenants have access to legal representation at no cost to them in eviction and related legal proceedings. This is important because the vast majority of tenants in the eviction proceedings in the Westchester area today are unrepresented. Those unrepresented tenants are evicted at far higher rates than those who are represented in court. But the Office of Housing Counsel will do much more than that. If you're having trouble paying your rent, if you're in a rent dispute with a landlord, if you've been deprived of essential services like heat or hot water, there are programs out there that may be able to help assist you to keep things from reaching to the point of eviction, and the Office of Housing Counsel is a central place that residents can turn to be connected to those programs. By coordinating access to preventative programs and services, the Office of Housing Counsel will be able to take action before a situation escalates to a point of eviction proceedings. We want to make sure that families stay in their homes. That reduces the cost and the traumatic community impacts that escalate quickly if a family has to enter into the homeless system. So we want people to reach out as soon as possible if they are in trouble. The Office of Housing Counsel is at the center of our efforts to reduce housing instability in Westchester County, and we'll have Leonard Towns, our Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, and the Director of the Office of Housing Counsel, George Asante, to tell us a little bit more about that. And then with all of our advocate partners that have made this pull us together, we're going to hear from them. We're going to hear from our legislators. But right now, let's turn over to the Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, and First Leonard Towns, and First Deputy Commissioner John Beefus.
Good morning, everyone. As we know, housing instability and homelessness can have a devastating effect on families. The economic and social toll it takes has a horrible impact that lasts beyond just the moment they're homeless. It's not just the short-term cost of housing these families, it's the long-term impact on the families that affects their development going forward. If you know about children, they need a safe home to live in. And homeless children are impacted in ways that we just don't think is right. Homeless children don't do as well in school, and they tend to have those same issues when they become adults. So we have to do something now to preserve their future. We know that every eviction can't be saved, can't be prevented, but I think everyone who's facing eviction should have the right to advice and/or legal counsel. By centralizing all these supports in one place under the leadership of the well-experienced Mr. George Asante, we think we'll make it much easier for eligible Westchester residents to get the supports they need. This is a big day in Westchester. I'm grateful to be here. I look out here and I see a lot of faces that we've been in the battle with for years, and now this has come to fruition, and it's a good day in Westchester. So I want to thank the county executive, Mr. Jenkins. I want to thank the Board of Legislators, and I want to thank all our advocates and partners who pushed to make this happen, because it's well-deserved and it's much needed. It's a great day in Westchester. Thank you.
So with that, we're going to bring up next the person who's responsible for the Office of Housing Counsel, but we're going to do a little bit of a deviation because I'm the county executive. We get to do that, right? We're going to ask from our Board of Legislators for all of them to come up right now, because without their support in working through this, there would not have been this opportunity to have this law, and they worked so hard on that. So Legislators Shanae Williams, Legislators Nancy Barr, Legislator Drew Williams-Johnson, and Legislator David Imamura will have an opportunity to bring their thoughts to this. So come on up, right? Legislator
Nancy, it's your bill. Okay.
Thank you, David. It's everybody's bill, but I did work on this very hard, and we did have we have been working on it for a long time, as you heard. I think it is very consequential. It is something that we know is a problem in Westchester and all over. Housing is a problem for so many people, and the fact that there are people who are super vulnerable who do not have representation is just antithetical to what we believe in. So this was something that was a long time coming, and then even after it was passed, we realized it's still going to be a long time coming. So it's super exciting to be here today and to share this moment with all of you, with all of my colleagues, with the county executive, and I just can't wait to hear all about it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shanae Williams. I'm the chair of the Housing and Planning Committee. And while I wasn't here at the start of this process to get this legislation going and to get to this part, I am here now. And I'm so grateful for my colleagues that they had the foresight to say, we need this office because people in Westchester need help. They need to make sure that they're staying in their homes and not being evicted. And they made it happen, working with the county executive, right? And so I'm just so grateful for all of them and for all of the partnership. I'm thankful that we have Mr. Asante on board. We've met with him many times at our committee meetings, and we know that now more than ever, affordability is a real issue for so many people across Westchester, and it is our job as a county to make sure that we keep people in their homes, right? And the last thing we want to do is to see more people end up on our streets and going to the Department of Social Services for housing. We want to just do everything we can to prevent that, and this office will do just that. And so I'm very grateful for this moment that we're in time. It's a great time to be here in Westchester. So thank you to our county executive and to everyone under his leadership. We did it. Well done.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jewel Williams-Johnson on the Board of Legislators, and I think my colleagues have said it well. I think Commissioner Towns especially pointed out the priority, and that's families and their children. Being evicted and getting notice about it can be very traumatic, and traumatic for the parents and especially for children walking into a courtroom unprepared, unrepresented, unequal playing field. So this corrects that for Westchester County residents. And as was said, I couldn't be more prouder to have worked on this legislation. And as was also said, Mr. Asante is awesome. He, So thank our wonderful county executive and his team, and I look forward to people feeling better about their situation and having a fighting chance and being equally represented. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm David Momora, District 12. I'm chair of the Law and Major Contracts Committee for the legislature, and I'm also vice chair of the Housing Committee under Chair Williams. And so this was one of the first bills I voted on 2 years ago after being elected in the special election. And I can say without any doubt that this is the most important thing that I have voted on in my time in the county legislature. I mean, the idea of people at the worst times in their lives being asked to navigate a complicated legal process where everything is stacked against them is insane. And that is why, thank you, Legislator Barr, for coming up with this idea to have an Office of Housing Counsel to provide representation for those who do not have representation. Thank you, Legislator Barr. The numbers here are astounding. If you are represented in housing court, you have a 90% chance of not being evicted. Because of this, because of what we are doing today, those people will have a 90% less chance of being evicted. Frivolous eviction claims will not be filed because landlords will know that they will no longer be dealing with people who are representing them pro se. They are going to be dealing with people who are represented. Politics lends itself to hyperbole often, but it is not hyperbolic to say that what we are doing truly changes the game in Westchester. So thank you, Nancy. Thank you, George, for actually doing the work. And thank you, County Executive. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, legislators, and again, their hard work over the years. There's nothing that happens that is easy without the work, and certainly we have all of our advocates that have been here. Many of them have been here from a long time working this particular process to get where we are. And I know we're joined today by the Executive Director of the Legal Services of Hudson Valley, Rachel Halpern, in the house with us here, but with her predecessor also in the room, Barbara Finkelstein in the room, and certainly Carl Bertrand, who we mentioned earlier, and then we're going to hear from Jason Mays and the members, and Tom Gabriel, 11 the members from the coalition that have been working hard to do. Again, because we get a chance to do all of this thing, it doesn't happen alone. So before we have George Asante tell you actually how this work is moving forward, we're going to ask our good Deputy Director of Operations to come up and say a few words, because she was the one that was so instrumental in trying to pull all the pieces together from an operational perspective. And yes, we stole George Asante from Legal Services of Hudson Valley. Thank you, right, for allowing that to happen. But more importantly, after Diane Atkins said that we had to make sure that this work was progressing, that we actually went out and we did a posting for the jobs and doing all those kind of things to pull all those operational pieces to get things out of the way to allow George to do that work was none other than our Deputy Director of Operations, Emily Saltzman. So Emily, come on and say a few words about that process.
Thank you, County Executive. I think this is an exciting day because this is what happens when advocacy comes to legislators to create a great piece of legislation, and then we spend some time implementing it. I'm very proud of this comprehensive plan to provide eviction prevention advocacy as well as legal services, to provide greater access through 211, through some of the other partners for help. And as many of you have laid out, eviction, housing challenges are scary and impactful things. And I know that with the partners that we're announcing today, Westchester residents will have greater opportunity to live happily, healthily, and successfully in our county. So thank you, everyone, and I look forward to hearing more from George.
Thanks, Emily. And again, because again, nothing happens alone, and it takes sometimes a hard road to get there, because I'm pretty sure there were bumps along the way that have happened. I don't know, maybe it was just me, right? But there were some bumps along the road as we are going with advocacy, and advocates are supposed to push as hard as they can, because that's what advocates do. But then the practitioners on a day-to-day basis see these things happening. And for us, and Diane, like I said, Diane Atkins was, no, George Asante is, he's the dude, right? He's the man that can help us get this done. But at the end of the process, his work and his passion for the work is innumerable. I mean, every time something happens, you know that because of the kind of training that folks have and the work that they've done along the way, you know their passion for things. And George every day hears some stories that would make the hair on the back of the neck of most of us stand. But more importantly, his passion and focus on making sure it gets done is, again, the focus of this office. And again, building this and working it from Emily and working together with George. Now, let's hear from the man himself, George Asante.
Wow. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate, and we appreciate everyone taking the time to join us for this momentous announcement. It's been a long time coming, but I'm happy that you're all here with us. You're all here to support this movement and move forward and provide access to services for our county residents, our neighbors, our friends, our family. So I'd like to introduce the public to the new Office of Housing Counsel, explain the kind of help we can connect residents with, and let people know how they can reach us. The Office of Housing Counsel was created to fill a crucial role, a crucial need. There are around 10,000 eviction proceedings in Westchester courts annually. The vast majority of tenants facing eviction go to court with no legal representation, while nearly all landlords have counsel. We all know outcomes are far better when tenants have representation. That's without question. Under Westchester County's Housing Counsel law, tenants are entitled to free legal representation and in evictions and related proceedings if their gross household income is 300% of federal poverty level for a household of their size, or 60% of the county area median income for a household of their size. That means today, a family of three with a gross annual household income of $91,800, that's $1,765 per week, would be eligible for legal representation. The Office of Housing Counsel does not directly provide representation. We function as a clearinghouse to connect residents with a dream team of providers with whom we have contracted with. I'll list those providers now, and I'm grateful to all of them. Legal Services of the Hudson Valley, Human Development Services of Westchester, Hudson Valley Justice Center, and the Law Office of Tracy Forrest. But as County Executive Jenkins and Commissioner Towns have said, the Office of Housing Counsel is a clearinghouse, is a clearinghouse for more than just legal services for folks facing eviction. Our approach to eviction prevention is holistic. We know that prevention before things reach the point of eviction proceedings is crucial to housing stability. So we also have a team of providers we have contracted with who can provide advocacy services and help connect people, tenants, with aid programs before eviction proceedings. These providers are Community Housing Innovation, CHI, Community Resource Center, CRC, Cluster, Westchester Residential Opportunities, WRO, Mount Vernon United Tenants, and Human Development Services of Westchester. So if you're behind on your rent, if you've been locked out, if you're having problems with essential services like heat or hot water, if you're struggling with a high rent increase, if you've gotten a termination notice from a public housing authority or Section 8 administrator, and certainly if you've received an eviction notice, we want you to reach out to us. Residents can reach out by phone by calling 211. That's the United Way's 211 helpline. One of our partners in this effort, United Way 211, has specialists available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who will assess your situation, connect you with the appropriate help from one of our service providers, whether that's advocacy services or legal representation. You can also reach out directly to the Office of Housing Counsel. There's an online intake form, which you can find at housingcounsel.westchester.gov.com. The intake form would lead users through a series of screening questions that will allow us to connect you with the appropriate service providers for your situation. Now, I want to thank the County Executive, the Board of Legislators, for their leadership in pushing this innovative program forward and providing us with a comprehensive approach to eviction prevention. I want to thank Commissioner Towns and the entire DSS family for their support in launching this new office. Doing something new and innovative isn't always easy, but you all provided the support that was needed. I want to thank all of our county departments as well, from contracts to the law department, to planning, to human rights, Office for Women, assigned counsel, so many to name. I just want to thank you all for the support in this process. I want to also thank our service providers, many of whom are represented here today. They went through a long, painstaking RFP process. It took a while, it took a long while, but we wanted to make sure that we were ready to hit the ground running, and we are ready. Finally, I'd like to thank all of the housing advocates who championed this and let us know loud and clear how important counsel is in eviction proceedings and pushed us to innovate. Thank you, everyone.
And he's humble too, right? I mean, and I guess it was really interesting, especially because I know that, again, advocacy, I was an advocate one day a long time ago, right? And when the difference between being on the advocate side and the legislation side and the administration side, it makes a lot of difference. But you have to continue the work and have everyone working together. And whether we have our friends like John Shank that's here with us from Cluster and everyone else that's in the room that's been able to take this forward, it takes that time. But if we do this work and it's painstaking, and everyone had a good chuckle about that because it was long and it was tedious and it was painstaking. And it's like, but at the end, we come up with a product that we all can work and live with and make sure that we're really helping people out. So at this time, we're going to ask two of those leaders that were from the advocate community and continue their leadership roles in this particular process in the Office of Housing Counsel and the work that we do to keep these folks together. And the first was Jason Mays and Tom Gabriel. So Jason Mays is the Executive Director of the Hudson Valley Justice Center, and then Tom Gabriel, the President and CEO of the United Way of Westchester and Putnam. Gentlemen.
So as an attorney, when I think about this program and the role of free legal services in our legal system, I think about three facts that people might not always consider together. The first is when a person files a petition or a complaint with a civil court, they are really asking the court for an order that allows them to deploy the coercive power of the state against another person. They're asking for an order allowing them to hire a marshal, to levy bank accounts, garnish wages, seize or forcibly remove someone from property, and often it's their only shelter. The second thing I think about is that the U.S. legal system is adversarial, and that means that the judges are neutral, and individuals are responsible for identifying their own claims, asserting their own defenses, arguing them before the court in the right way at the right time. The civil court doesn't provide people with attorneys, and since few non-lawyers can do this on their own, they usually hire attorneys if they can afford them. If they can't afford them, they're not represented. The third thing I think about is that the New York State Legislature and several local governments, including the city of White Plains, has passed significant new tenant protections in recent years. They've improved notice requirements, extending timelines for no-cause evictions and rent increases. In some areas, even prohibiting no-cause evictions and capping rent increases in most cases. But if we combine this third fact with the second, because people facing eviction are surely some of the least likely to be able to hire an attorney, we can immediately see that few of these new tenant laws will actually protect tenants at the crucial moment when they're in court. And that means that those laws won't likely discourage the predatory business practices they are intended to stop before a case goes to court. And if we combine the third fact with the first, we can see that when people lack access to counsel, lack expertise to assert their legal defenses properly, the coercive power of the state will be deployed by some people against others, contrary to the law. By creating the Office of Housing Counsel and funding expanded access to counsel for low-income tenants, Westchester County shows that it understands investment in free legal services is necessary to ensure that the law operates in the courtroom as the legislature intended. Programs like this are springing up across the country as a result of a nationwide movement to expand access to counsel. But this is the only county government in the nation so far to take this kind of action. Other jurisdictions have shown that it takes time to fully develop these programs, but my office, Hudson Valley Justice Center, is eager to work with the county, with LSHV, with the Office of Housing Counsel, and with the other providers to ensure that this is a success in the long term. So we'll be providing direct legal services to people in court. We'll be advising people, and we are excited to get started. Thank you, George. Thank you to the county executive and to the legislature. We're eager to get going. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Tom Gabriel. I'm the president and CEO of the United Way of Westchester and Putnam, and I am honored to be a part of this press conference announcing the launch of the county's Office of Housing Counsel. United Way is most known for making grants to other nonprofit organizations, but we do so much more than that. One of the things we do is we publish a report known as the Alice Report, which looks at the real economic needs in our community. And the 2025 report shows that almost 40% of our neighbors are living in poverty or paycheck to paycheck. In fact, a family of 4 with 2 children in childcare need more than $131,000 to survive in our community, to cover the basics like rent, utilities, food, clothing. Notice I didn't mention a vacation or even putting away for a child's education. That's more than 4 times the federal poverty level, which is about $30,000 for that same family of 4. And the reason why 40% of our neighbors are struggling is because it costs too much to live here. Since 2016, housing costs, including utilities, have gone up 66%. And food costs, although we're not really talking about that today, is up 166% during that same time frame. That mirrors very much the calls that we're getting through our 211 helpline, which serves not just Westchester, the entire Hudson Valley, Long Island, Adirondack regions of the state. Food insecurity calls are up 327% since 2019. Housing insecurity calls are up 113%, and calls looking for help with rent or utilities are up 60%. Housing is a fundamental right, and national studies have shown that approximately 90% of tenants in housing court without an attorney lose their cases because landlords are represented in housing courts, as Jason Mays had pointed out. That's why Westchester County established the Office of Housing Counsel within the Department of Social Services to provide legal representation to income-eligible tenants facing eviction, rent increase challenges, or other housing-related issues. This will level the playing field because remember, we're all familiar with the phrase that if you can't afford an attorney, one will be provided to you. Well, not in eviction cases. That's in criminal cases. This is really going to be a game changer for families who are struggling with housing insecurity, with food insecurity, and so much more. And remember those statistics that were shared earlier by a number of other people? This is not a poor person's issue. This is a working family issue in this county. The United Way's 211 Helpline Call Center, which operates 24/7, 365, and is located right here in White Plains, is honored to serve as an entry point for this program, connecting those income-eligible tenants to the county's Office of Housing Counsel, and ultimately to those nonprofit providers, many of whom are here today. We're excited to be working with the Housing Action Council, the Hudson Valley Justice Center, Legal Services of the Hudson Valley, Community Housing Innovations, Westchester Residential Opportunities, and so many others, to ensure that people in need get the help to keep them in their homes. We are grateful to the County Executive Ken Jenkins for his continued partnership, Commissioner Leonard Towns and Deputy Commissioner John Beefus for your continued support, all of the Board of Legislators for this bill and for supporting these partnerships, and ultimately to the dude himself, George Asante, who we know is just going to kill it in this role. At the United Way, we have a saying: we're stronger together, and it's only by being united that you can change the world for the better. This is literally a perfect example of being united in one mission, one cause, to help make a difference for people in this community. Thank you for being a part of it.
So Tom, thank you so much. And again, you know, we like to think about the things where we are, and certainly Jason pointed out in his opportunity to come up and say some things about the work that the coalition did in pulling all this together and pushing. But we would be remiss because back in 2018, I remember sitting down the hallway in conference room A with some folks from Legal Services of Hudson Valley. And they were asking us to try to consider something which we said, let's try to do as a pilot. As a matter of fact, I think I talked to John Beefus about this during the pandemic. You know, we were sitting talking about this in the Emergency Operations Center of all things, about how this program that we had started in 2019 was moving forward. So with that, I'm going to ask Rachel Halpern, our Executive Director of the Legal Services of the Hudson Valley, to come up and say a few thoughts, because we started this program in a much smaller version, right? And then we started in 1 or 2 communities, because Diane Atkins said, I'm sitting in the back of the court in Yonkers and in Mount Vernon and working through those programs. And then we continued that work with the advocacy and the push and everyone doing that, and then created legislation to do that. So with that, Rachel, come up and say a few words again, because it was started in one version, and now we're here, right? So we started from the bottom, now we're here.
Well, thank you. This is a very exciting day, and what Ken is talking about is the Yonkers pilot project, which my predecessor really implemented and thought of, Barbara Finkelstein, several years ago. And so this is a very exciting day, and I really want to just congratulate the legislature and the county executive and talk about bold leadership and courageous leadership. Jason mentioned, but Westchester County is the only county in the nation to implement such a law. And at a time where funding for such services that protect vulnerable populations, such as the one that this program will serve, are being cut by many governments, by other funders, Westchester County is doubling down. And I think that, as my kids would say, is the receipts. That's the evidence of this bold leadership, and it's quite unique. I think it's quite unique. We hear a lot of times that Westchester is a unique place to live in, and this is Exhibit A. So I think, I'm very proud to be a part of this project and very excited to get moving, and just am very grateful to the exceptional leadership of our government. So thank you all.
Thank you. And again, we talked through the differences. Again, a lot of times when we have an opportunity to do things, and I was not sure, I did not know that we were the only county in the country that did that, but we're Westchester, so that's it. It's all good. One of the things that I know that for a long time in my previous advocacy roles, when I was a Board of Legislators member, in the same track as the legislator Shanae Williams in the 16th Legislative District in the county, I knew a guy and that was working so hard in this area, and that was a great friend of mine for so many years. And that is a friend named Carl Bertrand, who is a person that does continuum of care and talks about so many different things. So I'm going to ask Carl to come up and say a few words, because Carl has been one of the leaders in this. Before we called it Access to Counsel, and while Legal Service of the Hudson Valley and Hudson Valley Legal Services were working on different things, he's been a leader in this. So Carl, come on up here, because this is going to be good.
Thank you. Good morning. One of my business cards says I'm co-chair of the Continuum of Care Partnership to End Homelessness, but the one I give to people I really like says I'm Village Dreamer, Community Organizer, and Grant Writer. And as the Village Dreamer, I am really pleased that this dream has come true. Well done, everybody. I think this initiative is a prime example of the kind of innovative programming that's become the trademark of the Jenkins administration. It reflects the creativity and the passion of all the people in this room. It's also important to understand the context that Westchester is blessed to have massive new housing programs springing up all across the county, but many of those are mainly housing for the wealthy. And in the process, sometimes the people of lesser means get driven out. And what this does is try to balance the scale so that some of those most vulnerable tenants can have the resources that they need to stay in their housing and not become homeless. And that's the major thing I've devoted my life to, so thank you all, and thank you.
So one of the things, again, that is really great about having this opportunity and standing here as county executive at this time is that, the work that we see with all of the partners in the room, and whether for our legislative partners, whether our nonprofit partners, whether advocates, village dreamers, and everything that we have going on. We take those ideas and we try to make sure that they get implemented, but it doesn't happen without everyone here in the room, with everyone around the county, our great team that we have that do these things, and even Diane Atkins, who takes my text messages asking about housing stuff at 11 o'clock at night, right? Because that's when I start texting, right? But the reality is that we did this, And when we started doing this, I would talk to people from an economic development perspective, from a financial perspective, and say, you know what, we're not really nice people, we're just fiscally responsible people, because it costs us a lot to keep people in homeless shelters, and much more than people actually realize. And this was back when I was on the Board of Legislators. It was $6,000 a month to keep somebody in a homeless shelter. Like, we had this problem so badly over the years. When Richard Wishney, our deputy county executive, was on the Board of Legislators, they bought a hotel because we were putting people in hotels. That's how we bought a hotel, because we had that many things happening and where our family shelter is right now. So again, I think that this kind of opportunity is so exciting, and I'm so happy that we're here today to continue to move this forward. I know everyone's patience was wearing thin on some of this because it takes time to make it right, but this is right. So again, thank you all for being here. I'm County Executive Ken Jenkins. Thank you so much for watching, and let's have a wonderful day.